हेलो एवरीवन, वेलकम येट अगेन। आई एम अश्विन जोगलेकर फ्रॉम रेजोनेंस पीसीसीपी डिवीजन। आज हम यहाँ पे फर्स्ट चैप्टर ऑफ क्लास 9th दैट इज सिविक्स पोर्शन या पॉलिटिकल साइंस पोर्शन से व्हाट इज डेमोक्रेसी एंड व्हाई डेमोक्रेसी को डिस्कस करने वाले हैं इन दिस वन शॉट वीडियो। सो लेट अस क्विकली स्टार्ट एंड फिनिश दिस चैप्टर। ओके, सो नाउ एज द टर्म सजेस्ट, जो आप बोर्ड पे देख रहे हो लिखा हुआ व्हाट इज डेमोक्रेसी एंड व्हाई डेमोक्रेसी, तो हमारे लिए सबसे पहले एक इंपॉर्टेंट बात जानना जरूरी ये है कि डेमोक्रेसी एज सच एक वर्ड क्या है। ठीक है, अब एक बहुत सिंपल डेफिनेशन ऑफ गवर्नमेंट दैट इज अबाउट डेमोक्रेसी वी कैन से, जो अब्राहम लिंकन के द्वारा कही गई थी, दैट इज डेमोक्रेसी ऑफ द पीपल, फॉर द पीपल एंड बाय द पीपल। नाउ डेमोक्रेसी इटसेल्फ इज अ वर्ड which is made from two words, demos and kratos, that is power to the people, और या डेमोस और क्राटिया भी आपको कहीं जगह देखने को मिलता है, तो दैट इज पावर एंड पीपल। सो नाउ इन दिस चैप्टर वी विल बी लुकिंग एट कि पहले तो डेमोक्रेसी है क्या और क्यों डेमोक्रेसी की जरूरत है, उसको हम कंपेयर करेंगे बाकी नॉन डेमोक्रेटिक फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट्स के साथ। ऑलराइट, सो नाउ लेट अस स्टार्ट विद द चैप्टर देन। ओके, now first of all, as you can see here, the definition of democracy. Democracy is a form of government in which the rulers are elected by the people. ठीक है, पहला एक पॉइंट बन गया। One chief factor common to all democracies is that government is chosen by the people. That is, you can say, people have supreme power. Now, like in India, people do not have directly, but then we have a representative form of democracy here. That is, we have given or we have chosen our leaders or elected our leaders who in turn or on our behalf take the decisions. It also helps students to demarcate between democratic and non-democratic governments. From the non-democratic government, take the example of Myanmar, where rulers were not elected by the people and they came in by force. Those who were in charge of the army of the country took over as the rulers and people had no say in this decision. Dictators, the dictators are the people who are not elected by the people. This also applies to monarchies as well. Alright, yeah. Now as you can see, features, you can see some of the democracy, that is judicial independence, equality, individual freedom, free and fair elections, political participation, majority rule. Again, that doesn't mean that the minorities will be subjugated. Popular representation, limited form of government, that is, there's a government which abides certain rules and regulations, peaceful change of government, and free press. So see, these are some of the features which define democracy again. Same here, features of democracy. The simple definition of democracy gives us rise to various questions which are given below. Now, first of all, in different the features of definition, who are the rulers? The first question which is being asked is or put up is who are the rulers according to the definition. Then, what kind of election constitutes a democratic election, and which election you can call democratic in nature? Who are the people who can elect the rulers and get elected as rulers? Finally, what form of government is a democracy? So we will be answering or looking at all these questions. Okay, this is a table which separates or the differences between democratic and non-democratic government. As you can see here, democratic governments are government which are formed by the people's representatives, ruled by force or by a person or a group of people. Representatives are elected in a free and fair election, free and fair manner. Representatives are not elected by the people. So these are basically the non-democratic governments. Major decisions are again taken by the elected leaders who are given this position by the people. Now major decisions are taken by the non-elected leaders. Citizens have the right to oppose the decisions, a policy and action made by the government. As we can see in India, no criticism of government or rule is allowed or tolerated. Citizens have voting rights. One person, one vote, one value. No voting rights is given to the citizen. Okay. So now major decisions by elected leaders, the first point, the first feature. Now in this the example is shown of Pakistan. That is, Pakistan itself calls itself a democratic country, but in reality it is not a democratic country. Why? We will be looking at through this example. Like in Pakistan, General Pervez Musharraf led a military coup in October 1999 and he forcibly took over the government. He overthrew the democratically elected government and went on to become the president of the country. Then in in 2002, he held a referendum in the country, that is again a voting, in which it granted him a 5-year extension period. Meanwhile, after passing of this legal framework order, elections were held to the national and provincial assemblies and elected representatives were granted some kind of powers. But again, it was all governed, or ultimately the main power rested with the military officials. The final power rested with military officers and General Musharraf himself. The same thing happens in many dictatorships and monarchies, as you can see the world over. Thus we can conclude that in a democracy, the final decision making power must rest with those elected by the people. Okay, and that is again, they should not take over power by force, as was this case. Okay, the second feature is talking about free and fair electoral competition. Now in this example we will be looking at China as well as about Mexico. Okay, the concept of free and fair elections. Now in China also claims itself that it is kind of having a democratic setup. It is having elections and all the parties are there, but still it cannot be referred to as a completely democratic form of government. Why not? Is because the elections are held after every 5 years for electing the country's parliament, that is National People's Congress. But before contesting elections, a candidate needs the approval of the Chinese Communist Party. Chinese Communist Party is the sole head. So a candidate should have the approval of Chinese Communist Party and they decide who the leaders would be. So there is no choice in front of the people as such. The government is always formed by the Communist Party. So there is no multi-parties, there is no freedom of choice for other people to contest or take part in election. Now alternatively, since its independence in 1930, Mexico also holds elections after every 6 years to elect its president. But again, here also there was only one party. Until 2000, every election was won by a party, that was PRI, Institutional Revolutionary Party in Mexico. Now again, this party was also controlling all, it used to use dirty tricks in winning the elections, and again using media as a effective means to propagate or tell good things about the government and circulate bad things about the other parties. So due to this rigging, capturing of poll booths, all these things were done by this PRI to maintain its power. It used to use money to influence the voting pattern. It used to use its muscle power. So all these things which were done by PRI was helping it keep or form the government every time. So again, using these examples, we cannot cite or we cannot call these two countries as democratic countries. That is, reading these examples, we get a sense that we cannot call these democracies, and democracy again must be based on a free and fair election where everyone is able to participate, where those currently in power also have a fair chance of losing. So that is what constitutes a feature of this. Now again, one more point should be one person, one vote, one value. Now this we have one person, one vote and one value. Now even in this we have seen probably, as you would have known about French Revolution, in that the book Social Contract written by Rousseau. So that advocated the idea of one person, one vote, one value, which was again raised by the members of the third estate when the meeting of the Estates General was called. Now similarly here also this idea talks about that the vote should be of equal value and it should be allowed for everyone. There should be a common principle. Now democracy is again based on a fundamental principle of political equality, and that is how through the system of one person, one vote and one value, democracy establishes one vote and one value. democracy establishes the idea of political equality, that is, everyone is made equal. However, there are many instances of denial of the equal right to vote in many parts. Now, until 2015, in Saudi Arabia also, women did not have the right to vote. Now they have. Estonia had made its citizenship rules in such a way that people belonging to the Russian minority found it difficult to get the right to vote. Now again, it is denying a certain section of the population the right to vote. In Fiji also, the electoral system was such that the vote of an indigenous Fijian had more value or has more value than that of an Indian Fijian who is settled there. So definitely not a democratic government. The feature of democracy again, this highlights is that in a democracy each adult citizen must have one vote, and in turn each vote must have one value, that is, it should be equal. Alright, moving on to the next part, that is rule of law and respect for rights. Now again, constitution, see, a nation is made from three basic ingredients: land, that is a definite territory, citizens, and a constitution, that is a rule of law. Now no one in the country should be above rule of law, and everyone should respect the rights of the others. Now the case of Zimbabwe, this was not happening. Now let us look at that. Zimbabwe attained its independence from white minority rule in 1980, and from that then the country has been ruled by the party that led the freedom struggle, named as ZANU PF. Now its leader Robert Mugabe ruled the country since independence, and in a series of steps he increased his power so much and decreased his accountability. Even if elections were held regularly, it was always won by ZANU PF. President Mugabe was popular but also used unfair practices in winning the elections. There was a law that limited the right to criticize the president, that is, no one could criticize the president. Again, similar examples you can see in North Korea. In many of the dictatorships you can see similar examples. Television and radio again were controlled by the government and gave only the ruling party's version. So again, there is no balanced reporting or news reporting. There were independent newspapers, but the government harassed those journalists who went against it, and so on. So this you see happening in many countries of the world today also. That is how governments harass the journalists who want to keep up the spirit of true journalism alive. Democratic government rules within limits. Now this brings us to the next point, that is, democratic governments rules within limits, that is a prescribed limit set by constitutional law and citizens' rights, and no one is above that in the country. So hence we can deduce that democracy is a form of government in which, now these are the four points you can see: first, second, third, and fourth. Alright. Rulers elected by the people take all the major decisions and no one else. Elections offer a choice and fair opportunity to the people to change the current rulers, and it happens periodically, like in the case of India every 5 years. This choice and opportunity is available to all the people on an equal basis, that is one person, one vote, one value, and the exercise of this choice leads to a government which is again limited by basic rules of the constitution, that is, no government is above the constitution, and they have to respect certain citizens' rights. Now the first we looked at the earlier part, that is, what is democracy. Okay, we understood about the four things which were related to democracy, with the example of the first example we used of Pakistan, then of China, and plus Mexico, and then we used the example of Estonia, or you can say about Fiji, and last we used the example of Zimbabwe to establish what is democracy. Now next is we are moving on to why democracy. Why do we need democracy? We can understand, okay, these are the positive points, but there are also some negative points about, or cons. Every side has like a positive side and a negative side. Similarly, democracy also has some inherent or probably defects in it. But again, finally when we will arrive at the conclusion, we will be seeing that democracy, even if it has its flaws, but still it is the best form of government which is available to us as of now. Among its other competitors. Okay. So why democracy? That is cons of democracy. Now first is leaders keep changing in a democracy and leading to instability, because parties or governments keep changing and this leads to instability. That is one of the cons of you can say demerit of democracy. Now democracy is all about political competition and there is no scope for morality, leaving no scope for morality. Third, many people have to be consulted, so the time delay which happens in a democracy, that leads to delays in making decisions. Elected leaders do not know the best interest of the people, so that results in or resulting in bad decisions. Also, democracy leads to corruption since it's based on electoral competition. Now, corruption is a problem in most of the governments of the world. Now, ordinary people also do not know what is good for them, and that is why they should not decide, and they should not decide anything. However, democracy is better than other forms of government that are there for us to choose from. Now, imagine just for an instance, if you start hating democracy or if you don't like democracy, imagine yourself staying in North Korea. Alright, now during one of the meetings they said that the dictator there, during the meeting someone was yawning and he got hold of that person and he was being executed. So just for a simple yawning you can be executed in a country like North Korea. So I guess we are much more better where we are in a democracy or when we are in a democracy. Alright. Now the arguments that are in favor of democracy, what are the good points? Again, a democratic government is better government because it is more accountable. That is, it is responsible, accountable form of government. Now why it is so? See, in a hereditary form of government, that is monarchy, the king is not answerable to the subjects or the citizens. Why? Because the position or he is not become king because of the people. That is because of his hereditary, he was born in that family, royal family, that is why he is carrying the crown on his head. Similarly, a dictator again came to power and he is again not answerable back to people. But in a democracy where people have all the power to decide who will govern them, so therefore parties or governments in a democracy have to become more accountable and responsive to the needs and aspirations of the people. If they are not, probably they will change the government, that is, they will change the political party. So take the example of India and China famines in 1958-61. Now China was having a communist form of government, India was having a democratic setup. So therefore, how they dealt with the situation of famines tells us how these countries react or how they are accountable. While China was hit badly, India did not fare as badly despite its economic condition. Reason for this could be that India responded to the food scarcity in a way that Chinese government did not. Okay, now because the parties there in India were again responsive to the needs of the people, they have to make sure that they are accountable in a sense that during the next elections, if the party in power does not do anything to ease that, probably they might lose elections. So therefore the party had to respond. But in China there was no such threat because there is only one party, which is the Communist Party. So here we see that democracy is better than any other form of government in responding to the needs of the people. Now democracy improves the quality of decision making also. Now sorry, previously in one of the demerits we had seen that the time taken in a democracy is very large. Okay, so therefore there is always a delay in decision making. But when there is a delay in decision making, it always makes sure that whatever decisions are being taken, they are good. Okay, and those decisions will be there for the long run. It is not like that we have taken a decision and quickly after probably 1 month or 2 months it has to be taken back. So the delays, because there is a proper debate, discussion on every decision which is being taken. So therefore the time which is being taken to make that decision is equally understandable. Democracy improves the quality of decision making. Again, is based on consultation and discussion. A democratic decision always involves many people, discussions and meetings, and they are again able to point out possible errors or mistakes in any decision. This may take time, so therefore this requires time, and however the advantage of taking time over important decision is that it reduces the chances of rash or irresponsible decision. That is, if we are taking the decisions in the haste or in a quick manner. Again, further, democracy also provides a method to deal with differences and conflicts. Probably in a dictatorship, differences and conflicts are not dealt with, they are just crushed. Okay, one of the incidents probably could be of Tiananmen Square in China, okay, where the students had gathered to launch a protest, but the Chinese government called the military and opened fire on all these students, which doesn't happen in a democratic setup. So, in any society, people are bound to have differences of opinions and interests. These differences are particularly more in a country like ours, because again we have such a huge diversity with amazing social diversity. People belong to different religions or regions, speak different languages, practice different religions, and have also different caste. So, because of this diversity, they are bound to have differences or conflicting interests, but in a democratic setup, these differences and opinions can be at least be discussed and dealt with. The preferences of one group can always clash with those of the other groups. Democracy provides the only peaceful solution to this problem. In a democracy, no one is a permanent winner or loser, okay, and different groups can live with another or with one another peacefully. So, that is what a democracy provides. Now, democracy also enhances the dignity of the citizen, self-respect. Democracy again is based on the idea of principle of political equality. Now, see, in this like a person earlier belonging to probably a low caste or probably a low class, they both will be politically equal in terms of a person belonging to high caste as well as or of a high class. Why? Because they both have one vote which has one value, that is one vote, one value. Okay. So, it is based on the principle of political equality, recognizes that the poorest and the least educated also have the same status as that of rich and the educated. Democracy is again better than any other form of government because it allows us to correct our own mistakes. That is again one of the good features of democracy. Sorry, even if no government can guarantee that no mistakes will be made, in a democracy one can be sure that it will not be hidden for too long. See, even if you try, if any party or any government tries to cheat the people, maybe they can cheat it for 1 elections or 2 elections, but ultimately the truth will always triumph, okay. And when it will be in the light, that is the truth will come to light, people will never accept that party to form the government. It makes space for public discussion and on these mistakes. There is always also room for correction. Rulers have to change their decisions, or sometimes they have to take back their decisions, or they could themselves be changed. Thus, we can correctly infer that while democracy may not be the solution to all the problems, it is still clearly better than any other alternatives which we have right now. Now, democracy, the most unique idea is about democracy is democracy again keeps evolving. As the society keeps evolving, so is the idea of democracy also in different countries keeps evolving. And it is again up to the people through their participation who can again enhance a democracy. Now, coming to the next part, that is what are the broader meanings of democracy. Now, when we get to learn about democracy as a form of government, thus helping them to identify or helping us to identify, we get to learn about democracy as a form of government and thus helping us to identify a clear set of minimal features which we require or that democracy should have. That is, at least these many features democracy should have. The common form adopted by democracy is representative democracy, which even in India we have. That is because again we will be looking at that here. That is, in democratic countries all people do not rule, and which is not possible also. A majority is allowed to take decision on behalf of all the people through their elected representatives. Now this has become necessary for the reasons given below. Now what are the reasons? The first reason is modern democracies involve such a huge or large number of people or populations that it is physically impossible for all of them to come together, impossible for them to sit together and take a collective decision. Even if they could, probably the citizen does not have the time or the desire or the skills to take part in the decision or in all the decisions. So therefore, it is best suited that in a representative form of democracy, what is done is people choose their leaders, or probably they elect their leaders and who in turn take decisions for them on their behalf. Alright. Now democracy as a principle can go again beyond the government and can be applied to any sphere of life. People use the word democracy not to describe any existing government but also to set up an ideal standard that all democracies must aim to become. However, if the ideals of democracy are considered, then no country actually will fit in that sphere in the world is correctly or ideally democratic. Still, having an understanding of democracy as an ideal will again let us know that where we have to reach, and as an ideal will explain why to value democracy. It enables people to judge an existing democracy and identify their weakness and probably correct their mistakes and move in a positive manner. It also helps to distinguish between a minimal democracy, minimum, and a good democracy. So therefore we can conclude here also, that is we can if we talk about ideal democracy, that is everything or everyone has equal rights and all everyone is happy. So no country can fit in this bracket of ideal democracy. The most common form of democracy in today's world is being ruled through people's elected representatives. That is what most of the democracies follow. However, for a small community, they can always make decisions collectively, like probably form of direct democracy is practiced in the cantons in Switzerland, and also Gram Sabha, the Panchayati Raj system, can also be an example of this. There can be other ways of making democratic decisions. All people can sit together and make decisions directly, but that can only be possible when there's a very low population involved, or there are less number of people involved in making the decisions or taking decisions collectively. This is how probably the Gram Sabha or should work in a village. Okay, here is again a table comparing democracy and dictatorship. Now in a democracy, power lies in the hands of peoples. Power lies in the hands of an individual or the dictator. People have a right or has a right to choose the government through election, and people do not have any right to choose who will form the government. People enjoy very importantly, that is freedom of speech, and this should be expression, freedom of speech and expression. People do not have any rights here. All citizens are equal and there is no equality here, and policies are made for the benefits of the people, and here policies are made for the benefits of the individual or the dictator, what he sees fit. Now these are the examples given from NCERT. Probably you can do it as your homework, and you can upload it in the comment section in the video. Read these 5 examples of working or denial of democracy. Match each of these with the relevant feature of democracy which was discussed above. Now first example here is given, and here are the features of democracy given, and you have to match them. Like King of Bhutan has declared that in future he will be guided by the advice given to him by elected representatives. So what can be a form of feature which can be mentioned from here? And many Tamil workers who migrated from India were not given a right to vote in Sri Lanka. What can be a feature from here which can be matched with this? The king imposed a ban on political gatherings, demonstration and rallies. The Indian Supreme Court held the resolution of Bihar Assembly as unconstitutional, or which was unconstitutional. Political parties in Bangladesh have agreed that a neutral government should rule the country at the time of elections. So all this example and features you have to match, and probably you can upload it in the comment section. Okay, then we will be discussing here some of the cartoons which are given in the chapter. First is about you can see Syria, democracy, and the cartoon says no entry before you fill the form and become a member of in the Al Baath party. Is that clear? Okay. So Syria again is a small West Asian country. The ruling Baath party and some of its small allies are the only parties which are allowed in that country. So do you think this cartoon should apply to China or Mexico as well? So yes, this is correct. Again, that there is no true democracy in Syria. Yes, it would suit China and Mexico because again a system of free and fair elections is not being followed here. Mexico also, where no opposition parties are allowed to contest election. A symbol of victory in Greece, the reward to the winner was this crown. Here the crown suggests that democracy has won and demands justice, but the one party rule is denying this right to the people of Syria. Okay. Now in this cartoon again we can see some soldiers, and probably this again looks like a mockery of democracy in a McDonald manner which they have shown. Okay, and this cartoon was drawn when elections were held in Iraq with the presence of US and foreign powers there. And what do you think this cartoon is saying? Why is democracy written in the way it is? Okay, the democracy where again this should be free and fair elections must be held. It is being forced on Iraq by the US and its allies. So there are no free and fair elections here. Okay. The capital M again suggests mockery which is being made of democracy, or which is again we can say that is democracy is being forced on the people of Iraq there. Now this cartoon is from Brazil, a country that has long experience of dictatorship. It is entitled The Hidden Side of Dictatorship. Which hidden sides does this cartoon depict? Now as you can see, this person dictator is probably looking at a skeleton here, probably of a dead man, and this suggests that most of the dictators have killed a huge number of people for them to remain in power. They have killed their opposition, whoever the people who criticize them, and probably this you will also be reading, or you might have read about in the chapter that is Socialism in Russia, where Stalin, Joseph Stalin killed almost 40 lakh people in erstwhile USSR. Apart from that, then probably Hitler, who killed nearly 60 lakh Jews and others which we probably know about or we have the data of. And so that is what is being done in different places where these dictators have ruled. So hidden side of dictatorship is a massacre or opposes the policies of a dictator, kills. Since the dictators control the media, the public never comes to know about the number of people being killed. Now this is again one more cartoon here. This cartoon was drawn in the context of Latin America, and do you think it applies to the Pakistani situation as well, where the referendum was held? Again in Pakistan, after the referendum was held, many of the media houses as well as independent media channels reported that the referendum was not conducted in a free and fair manner. To the Pakistan situation, think of other countries where this could apply. Does this happen sometimes in our country as well? This cartoon shows the booth capturing with the gun. This can again be applied in Pakistan, Iraq, Myanmar, where people are forced to vote. Booth capturing by the people standing in elections happens sometimes in our country also, but now it is the situation is much more better. Okay, so this brings us to an end of the chapter, what is democracy, why democracy. I hope you enjoyed the lecture. Thank you so much for watching, and please do answer the question which I had asked here about the first part, that is this one, and leave your answers in the comment section. Thank you so much.